we're talking about 98 Oceana Terrace.
Yeah.
We are selling this home that is absolutely magnificent. I mean, can you give us just the first brief of where you started from?
I often say to our clients, if we don't do different, we don't get different. And one of the tensions we always have in every project is wanting to be original, wanting to be, sort of fresh and not so much unique, but we want to kind of present something that has a new way of looking at a common problem. So what is really special about that project is there were a couple of quite, I suppose, obvious things we had to respond to. There's some interesting topography on the site, which creates some amazing opportunities in itself. And there's the view to the bay, which is obviously a massive draw card. There's a lovely long north elevation where one's got to manage privacy and all those sorts of things. And because of all of those constraints, we've almost designed a house that kind of defies the way one thinks about a house, because it's not a house you walk into the garden and then kind of walk into the house and walk out into the garden. The whole house is actually elevated in such a way that you've got this amazing kind of almost penthouse-like lifestyle in this house where you enjoy the views. You've got the swimming pool immediately adjacent to your living area, which just happens to be sitting 4.5 meters in the air. And because we brought all the planting up and everything with it, there's this really beautiful sense of this place being this lovely kind of resort. And it does kind of have that sort of feel in a way that overwhelmingly I think most people don't expect.
So how would you describe your architecture?
20 years ago, Houses magazine did an article when I was at my previous firm and referred to my work as a regional response to subtropical modernism. And while that's a mouthful, if you break it down, the subtropics is perhaps the obvious part. It's where we live, and we want to make work that's contextual and responsive to its place. The modernism part is the kind of enduring, the most enduring school of architecture, in my opinion, and it's often confused with contemporary, whereas modern is a period in architecture, ostensibly from about the 20s, 30s, through to about the late 70s, depending which country in the world you're talking about. And then the regional part of that is obviously trying to be responsive to the immediate conditions. And whether we're building in Manly, or whether we're building in Stradbroke Island or Noosa or Byron Bay, they're common threads to all these things, but they're also very specific things, both in terms of planning, culture, lifestyle. Essentially, despite the mouthful that I gave you about describing our work, it's really about trying to design these very, very simple, elegant, timeless homes that respond appropriately to both people and place.
It's very bespoke, all the lighting, everything's been thought through to detail. I think the quality is unbelievable.
We have to give credit to the builder, and it is exquisitely executed. Absolutely exquisitely executed. There's a nice mix of things. It's no secret that we love our concrete. The western facade of the house presents this beautifully landscaped garden, so you do get this lovely softness on the street, which is something that we are enormous fans of. I like the idea that people sort of enter this beautiful enclave or sanctuary through a sense of overwhelming landscape rather than just building, building, building. In effect, almost a bridge to connect the very high pedestrian edge with the house. So there's this really beautiful entry sequence to the house where you look down into this little gully with this beautiful landscaping, beautiful timber, which is all being treated in such a way that it just grays off and gives that lovely mixture of, because we are also conscious of the fact that these are coastal houses in high impact environments. So the materials that we're choosing are intended to weather beautifully. And even as they age, quite nautical, these beautiful sort of turquoises and sort of soft greens that are very special. That's got a lovely sort of boutique kind of feel to it. But the actual making of these homes to achieve that level of attention to detail and all those sorts of things, it does have a lovely sense of sanctuary. It's a beautifully sunny house. There's lovely sun on this very long pool. But at the same time, it's got a nice livable scale. It's not a house where people are going to feel like they're rattling around.
There is no doubt, and it's been proven, that a Shaun Lockyer home will get more money on sale than any other architect home.
Yeah, I've heard this.
I mean, you've got the record price for Bulimba on Riverfront, and we could keep going on. You've got it for Paddington, and that was years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a sale that's never been beaten, and it's just incredible. But it's a no-brainer, isn't it? If you invest in doing the best possible design, taking advantage of what you've got, and highlighting all the views from every angle, breezes, all the things that people just don't know until you do it every day of your life, and you become the best.
Very generous of you, and I think I think that is a pretty accurate statement in terms of the legacy of our work. And we've always focused very, very, very heavily on the client's needs and really curate those in such a way that the clients get something that's totally unique, but it's built on tried and tested recipes and formulas. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, there's some wonderful, wonderful architects, both in Southeast Queensland and beyond. And I think the ones that marry the sort of poetics of architecture, the functionality of people's needs, and places that fit into their context well, and perhaps most importantly, are timeless, I think are always going to get results in the real estate world. When you're spending that kind of money, you want to know that it's good for your life, but that it is a sound investment, because for most people, it's the biggest investment they'll ever make.
I always found, maybe 10 years ago, I had to educate buyers that you have to pay for a Shaun Lockyer. This is something that has no compromise on quality and scale, and the position where the house is built is usually prime. Now I don't have to educate people so much, but it still is. People really invest in these homes, don't they? They don't cut corners.
I think it has underpinned a lot of our work is that people have seen these are beautiful homes, they're well built. You know, they come with good energy because the clients are happy, and in the fullness of time, even the people that buy those homes have gone on to sell them very well.